Okay everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video on Gran Turismo 7. We're going to be taking part in one of the new daily race seeds that has gone live this week at Suzuka in Group 3 with racing medium tyres. Now this race has something a little bit different to what we normally encounter with a daily race C. We have 20 laps and this is actually going to be a really good change, I think, for future races. Not every week, I think it's something that we maybe just will encounter every now and then, but I do think it's a positive change if we can see this more in different types of races, maybe add some dynamic settings in there. Just one thing I would note is that with 16 players we really need to get that 20 player lobbies back, and in future games pushing it to 30 player lobbies so we can really have some really, longer races with 30 cars would be amazing. Now if you do enjoy this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We're currently chasing 75k before the end of the year. It's going to be hard to get there, but it would be amazing if you subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. So let's see what happens in this race. We're going from the back of the grid. We started P11. We've got Super GT up ahead. P4 I think he started. He was in his first race of the day. We're in our second race of the day, so we do understand fuel probably a little bit better than some people that are jumping in for their first race. So fuel wise, I kind of know what I need to do because of the first race we did come a little bit short on the fuel. So working our way through the first sector. Now this track, as most people will know, in Group 3, it's very, very difficult to overtake. Now we have multipliers, like I said, on the tyres and fuels, times 2 fuel, times 3 on the tyre wear. That is going to come into play. You do need to make a pit stop in this race. So you are going to be going in the pits, changing tyres, and possibly either save, like I said, save a little bit of fuel or refuel. Now word of advice, if you're going from the front and you're pushing, it's probably faster just to go flat out and put like 1 second's worth of fuel in, 1.5 seconds worth of fuel in, because a tiny bit of short shifting for like 10 laps might lose you over a second anyway. So you might as well just go aggressive and just, feel more comfortable pushing 100%, rather than doing these like little short shifts here and there and risking getting overtaken. But we go for a nice move there up the inside of the Spaniard driver, and you can see we're now going to have a little bit of a drag race all the way up to Spoon. We do have the inside line though, so we should be able to make this quite comfortably as we get to the braking phase, and we've managed to make that move up the inside and now up into P10. So a position gained on lap 1, that's always great. Now what I do like about this race, with it being 20 laps and basically a 40-minute race, is you don't need to make as much rash decisions, but we get a nice opportunity here with a ghosted car to just go straight through that. So yeah, he went a little bit deep into the chicane, getting ghosts him, and we're going to take advantage of that and up to P9. So we're going to go now halfway through lap 2, and we're right up behind Ali Loves to Drink. Hopefully he's not had too many drinks at this point of the day. It was the morning, so pretty confident he's not had too many at this point. And as we come out the hairpin here, very, very close on the brakes, and now we're just going to try and get that good exit. Now we know the McLaren isn't the best car on early acceleration because I've driven it in manufacturers, so I do know that's its weakness. And you can see we're starting to gain, and I think he actually decides just to let us through there on the inside and not fight us too much, and yeah, just tucks up behind us. So that's another nice position there. So we've gained one through just being let through, we've gained one through a ghosted car. Now we need to see if we can catch up to P7. So quite good so far. We did one overtake, one freebie through a ghosted car, and then a freebie basically as he let us through. Now we've caught up to Vegas now in P7. We're on lap 3 and we're starting to get rather close to him. You can see half a second behind him, and we're going into Spoon corner, a very tricky corner to get right, as Vegas is going to show you here, fraction wide. And let's be honest, we have all done that mistake. I don't think there's anyone watching this video that can honestly say they've never made that mistake, because we've all done it probably more than once, and it's a very easy mistake to make. But I'll take that up into P7, and now we've got Steve in front of us. You can see Steve has obviously had a penalty on that straight and he's lost a few positions there. He's now down to P6, so his legendary position there, and now we're going to see if we can catch him up and get ourselves up into that P6 ourselves. So let's see, pushing on now and just try and get some good solid laps in here. So we've been in a bit of traffic for the first part of the race, and as we go over the line there, you can see we're not a great lap, but it's not the worst. We were a little bit obviously in traffic on that lap behind Vegas, but now we've got a little bit of clean air and we managed to set the fastest lap of the race. As soon as we were in clean air, we did the fastest lap of the race with a 59.3, and it wasn't particularly amazing. So nice little bit of gains on the group ahead of us. You can see there's 4 cars in that group. There looks like possible contact there, and we have a car spinning off, so another free position. And this is the thing at the moment, we're not really doing anything drastic, we're just driving our own race and we're gaining position. So we are now up to P6, and we are 2 seconds behind Super GT in front of us, and the leader is 7.5 seconds further up the road. Now, Golty is a fast driver, probably matching similar type of pace to what we're doing, so unless he makes a mistake, we're probably not going to catch him up. But the podium battle is definitely on from this position, and that is what we're concentrating on at the moment. So just keeping it smooth. This is obviously early in the day on Monday morning, so our pace is not particularly amazing, because we thought this was going to be a Group 4 race, like a lot of other people did. No one really expected 20-lap race at Suzuka in Group 3. It took everyone by surprise, but it is a real positive change that I'd like to see happen more. Now, things they could do to improve this, which I think some people might not want, but dynamic weather, it could be 5 races bone dry. 6th race, it rains on the last 3 laps. I want proper dynamic weather, not scripted weather, which you can't predict. So 5 races, perfectly fine, but you'd have to get rid of the compulsory pit stop, obviously, for that setting to work properly. You can see now we're starting to catch right up to Steve there in front of us, and you can see we've already lost a player out of this lobby, and it does bring into something that I think needs to be pointed out. We're down to 15 players, and I think it's time to get the 20-player lobbies back, at least for this game. We know it can run it. For the first few months, we ran 20-player lobbies on PS5 with no issue at all. Daily races ran fine, so I don't see any reason why we cannot have 20-player lobbies back. It is really questionable what's going on with that 20-player lobbies, but fingers crossed they might bring it back in the future. I hope they do, because it will make a difference for daily race here, especially for a race like this that is a little bit longer. But in this race, we're coming to the end of lap 6. We're half a second now, well, 7 tenths behind Super GT, and gaining. This is getting very, very close for this podium battle. So we're going to tuck into the slipstream on the straight before we get to 130R, and then just try and get a good solid run through 130R. Now, what I did through 130R was just literally downshift to 5th and just try and clip the curb and keep the throttle down through there. You can actually take nearly 150 all the way through the corner if you get it perfect. But when you're following another car, just bear in mind when you're close to another car through there, it will be incredibly easy to lose control and run to the right hand side and go off the track, because you'll get a lot of understeer. So just be careful through that corner when following someone else. You have to take it a little bit more sensibly and a little bit more slower. But now we're right up behind Steve. Now you can see 3 tenths behind him, under 3 tenths behind him, and as we're going into the turn 1. And this corner, really, really difficult to get right sometimes. It's very easy to go wide on that corner. We've seen plenty of people making mistakes on turn 1 at Suzuka. And now it's just a case of trying to figure a way past. To be honest, Suzuka, it's not the easiest track. It's one of them tracks where it's a patient game. You just have to wait for an opportunity, maybe wait for someone to make a mistake. As we watch that replay camera, you can just see just how close this battle is for P3, 4, 5 and 6 all in one shot there. Look at that. Brilliant racing. And this is actually brilliant, because this shows you that we can run these longer races and still have very, very close battles. And it works. So, there's battling going on. This race is, 4 cars within a second of each other, and we're coming up to lap 7. Still got 13 laps to go. It's really, really interesting. I actually would love a race like this every week if they added another race. Maybe keep Daily C, but add another race that's on every 2 hours or something like that. So you can still do the Daily C, but just have a separate race, a Daily Race D, which you could do with endurance settings and dynamic settings, dynamic weather, more strategy involved with races. Not always dynamic weather, obviously, but sometimes 3 compulsory tyres, the soft, the medium and the hard, stuff like that, because I do miss them races. I remember doing them quite a lot on GT Sport, and they were really enjoyable to do when you had to use all 3 compounds. It made for some really entertaining different strategies that you could run, coming up against people on hard tyres when you're on soft tyres with more grip, fighting your way through it. It was really entertaining. So fingers crossed they're looking to bring in more stuff into these races. They definitely look to be making big changes with some of the changes they've made recently. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope they do more of that. Now we're coming to the end of lap 7 here, and we realise at this point I'm losing time. It's time to dart off into that pits and get a fresh set of tyres on and no refuel, because we want to try and get an undercut on Super GT. So into the pits rather early there, so we do know that that is going to affect our tyre wear at the end, because optimally you probably want to pit lap 9 and then do the 11 lap stint on the second stint when the fuel's lower. But you can see here we had a really good outlap, no traffic at all up to this point. However, as we come through here, Ali runs onto the grass, and that's going to give him dirty tyres. Now this is going to cost us a little bit. You can see the gap coming down, and he's going to have dirty tyres as he goes through Spoon Corner up ahead now. So we're going to have to be really, really cautious here. And you can see as the gap comes down, he goes into the corner, obviously gets a bit of understeer. I think he's going to let us through, but we have to lift off massively then. We're really hesitant of when we can go past him. So maybe half a second loss there, and that could be the difference between getting ahead of Steve or ending up behind him. But I was hoping that I could do one more lap, and I was right. It looks like Steve and Rage decided to do 2 extra laps than what I did, and that gave me the chance to do 1 flying lap, which we're about to finish now, and we managed to go over the line with the fastest lap of the race. This lap was vital in the strategy, just after losing that time there, to get a nice lap in there and put ourselves fastest lap of the race. And you can see as we're coming down the main straight, Steve on our right hand side, and that lap has literally just got us into P6. So very lucky that they didn't pit lap 8. I think if Steve would have pit lap 8, we would have come out behind them, because we lost a lot of time on that lap. So really lucky with that situation there. But now we're going to try and chase some of the cars in front. Some of the cars have not pitted, obviously. We've got a couple of cars there that still haven't pitted in this race. I think there's 3 or 4 cars that haven't pitted there. So Rage obviously pitted, I've pitted, and Super GT's pitted behind me, but none of the other cars have made their pit stop yet. So we know that we're still in a good position of picking up a podium in this race. It's actually developing. It's quite a nice little battle, this, as we go on to the end of lap 11. And you can see there, sorry, at the start of lap 11, and we're coming out the pits. We can see the Ford coming out the pits, and he's got a 3-second penalty. Now this, when I first saw him coming out the pits, I was like, no, Ford Mustang, you're not going to get past that in the BMW. That is going to be a nightmare car to pass. However, 3-second penalty, I just don't need to battle it now. And this is what I say: if you ever come across this situation, you've got a car in front of you, he's got a 3-second penalty, there is no point fighting it. I just decided just to sit behind him. We don't want to fight with him, try and make him lose time, because then we lose time in our battle to get as far up this grid as possible. So what I just do here is just sit in that slipstream, take it nice and easy, wait for him to take that penalty, and now from here we're going to pick up a bit of slipstream and into 130R, and now just push on from this point. And you can see Steve very close behind me there. I think I might have made a little bit of a mistake coming out of Spoon Corner on that lap there, which got him right up behind, but luckily he didn't go for the move. I think Steve was probably thinking, use slipstream, see if we can catch up the cars in front. It's always a good way to race if you don't want to fight too much, because if we fight, we'll probably just end up losing time. But you can see there the gap to 2 seconds to Rage, and P1 and 2 a little bit further up. You can see P1 has obviously not pitted, P2 has made his pit stop, Golty has made his pit stop. However, as we come through here, we're going to see a yellow flag, and Golty has absolutely binned it. And like I say, turn 1, again, we've all done it. I don't think there's anyone watching that can say they've never binned it there, because we've all done it. It's an easy mistake to make. Unfortunately, Golty has made that mistake on this lap, and now we're into the podium position. From P11 to a podium, I'm really enjoying this race. I have to say, this race has been entertaining. It's the strategy elements, different times to pit, when you can pit. I like that the tyre wear is not extreme, because now there is strategy without extreme tyre wear, so you can actually push the tyres if you want. You're not just worrying about driving too aggressive. I much prefer this type of race. It's a race where, you know, there is a bit of fuel saving in if you want to do it, or you can just go aggressive and put the fuel in at the pit stop. Everything about this race is pretty well done. I think this race has probably been tested a little bit more than what they normally do with daily races. So more of this, PD. This is what we want on the game. We want, you know, one thing we want, as you can see there are 12 players left in this lobby, is we want more players. We want 20-player lobbies back. That is definitely one thing that needs to happen. But I'd love to see a race like this with dynamic weather settings, where 1 in 6 or 7 races you get a little bit of rain at some point in the race. It could be dry for 6 or 7. You know, the majority of races could be completely dry, but then that random race where halfway through or at the end or at the start, you know, a bit of rain downpour causes a bit of chaos. It would just make a bit of variety on the race, I think, and just cause a lot of fun for people doing it. So yeah, if you're listening, PD, think about that for the future. I think a lot of people would enjoy it with settings like that. But you can see now we've managed to gain a second on Rage in front of us, and now we're in that zone where we've got Super GT behind us and we've got Rage in front of us. They've both got 2 lap fresher tyres than what I've got, because we pitted early 2 laps before them. So we do need to try and be a little bit careful with these tyres, because when you follow him, you tend to pick up more understeer. Obviously, with being in the slipstream, you generate more understeer on the car, and that will then obviously give you a slightly worse front tyre wear. But you can see at this point now, at lap 18, we've managed to get a bit closer, and we started to pull away from Super GT. It was quite static racing for a few laps there, as we were just trying to get closer and get close enough for a move. Rage had pretty good race pace here, so to get right up behind him with 2 lap older tyres was not easy. But at this point now, you can see we're starting to get a little bit closer. I think his tyres have started to fade off slightly compared to mine, which was quite strange, because like I say, we've done 2 more laps on these tyres, And I think at this stage, Super GT was caught out slightly by the fuel because this was his first race. So with it being his first race, he wasn't fully up to speed with that fuel and understanding you had to just save a little bit for the last part. Whereas my fuel's looking really good. You can see our fuel is pretty much spot on. I can drive quite aggressive, and that has given me the benefit at this stage of the race. So now we're starting to pull away. You can see the gap at 1.8 to Steve, and we're starting to get quite close to Rage in front of us with a gap of 7 tenths to the leader. Now the win is definitely on here if we can go for a move and find a place to go for a move. It's just whether you're going to get the opportunity at a track like Suzuka. It's not easy. It's a very difficult track to pass on. So you can see as we power our way up to Spoon Corner, you can see the gap slightly coming down as we get in that slipstream a bit, but then as we get into the corners, we're probably going to lose tiny amounts as we get back on the power, because obviously we're in that slip that just gives you a little bit of understeer. You can see the moment there as I got on the power, we lose a tenth, just couldn't get the power down. Got a little bit loose on the power, but we are in that slip now and we should start gaining on the straight. So you can see it's starting to come down a little bit. Now we're going to skip to the end of lap 19 with just a lap and a half to go now. You can see we're getting very, very close to Rage there. Had a little look up the inside, didn't go for it, backed out of it, and now we're going to try and get a strong exit. He was starting to really struggle on these tyres at this point, and you can see that gap is 2 tenths, and we've got a nice slipstream here. Can we possibly go for an overtake before 130R? This would be very, very risky. We're picking up the slipstream. We're going to go to the right hand side. He covers that off. We're going to now try and take a good exit off here, which we do pretty nicely considering how close we are to the left hand side of the track. And now we're going to try and go all the way around the outside, and as we go around the outside here, we're on the left hand side and there is a tiny bit of contact there. Now at this stage I thought that was probably our fault. I'm going to back off. So look at my throttle inputs. We lift off and we let him back through. However, watching the replay, I think I should have kept the position, because when you watch the replay you can see that I think that I gave enough space here. So we're going to watch it, slow it all down and show you what I'm talking about. I think if anything, Rage just turns in for the second part of the chicane too early. So slowing it down now, we've given him plenty of space there. He's over the curb. He gets a little bit of a kick off the curb there, which understeers him. And now he turns in there. You can see he's cutting across our front end when we've got half of our car alongside. I think maybe he should have turned in a little bit later, because we gave plenty of space on the exit. We were giving loads of space on the outside. So actually, I think I might have made a mistake. I think if I would have known that, I would have carried on and not give that position back, because I think that was actually a fair driving by us. But not knowing in the situation, and when you're streaming, you don't want to do something and then everyone start hating on you, and yeah, you just get a lot of hate for something. You know, if it did end up being your fault, it can just be a bit of a negative. So that's the downside, but we did end up leaving him in P1 there, and also we ended up tapping a little bit in turn 1 there, but I made sure I flashed him to say just carry on. I didn't want to overtake him into turn 1, but I think he was really starting to struggle with the tyre wear at this stage of the race. So now we're going to try and see if we can put him under some pressure on this last lap. And you can see all that battling and obviously lifting off the throttle to let Rage back through has actually give Super GT and Golty the momentum to get right back up behind us. They're 6 tenths behind, and that shows you a little bit of battling, and that is why sometimes it's not a great idea to battle in some situations. In this race, obviously, we're fighting for P1, and the last few laps, we're going to fight it. But sometimes in the middle of a race, fighting like that just costs you too much time, especially if you haven't made your pit stop yet. So it's really worth noting that, how much time you lose. We were over 2 seconds ahead. I think we were like 2.9 seconds ahead, and then that incident dropped it down now to 7 tenths. So over 2 seconds lost in basically 2 corners. It shows you what battling does in terms of trying to fight and how much time you actually lose. So yeah, sometimes if you haven't pitted, it's best to work with the car in front and not lose too much time, so you don't lose time to other cars behind you. But you can see here, we're still trying to fight it. We're trying to figure a way past, but there's not much we can do. He's defending quite well there. He's holding the lines quite well, and it's just not really much we can do. We're going to get the slipstream here, but we're a bit too far behind. You can see 3 tenths behind him. Probably going to be under 3 tenths by the time we get into 130R, but the front tyres are starting to hurt a little bit, the right front especially there as we go through 130R. You can see I'm going to have to lift a little bit there. You can see coming off the throttle, nearly ran wide, and if we look in the mirror behind us there, Steve runs a little bit wide, and that actually gives Golty the chance to jump up into the podium. So unfortunate for Steve at the end there, but we'll take a P2. It's still a good result from P11, and what this race shows you is that Gran Turismo definitely can do longer races for daily races. There's no question of it. They make good races, and I think there's a lot of people that would like to take part in them. So yeah, let's make this more of a common occurrence. It doesn't have to be every week. Even I would love an extra race to be put in like this that was on every 2 hours, so you could still do daily race C. I think it'd be brilliant, but that's down to PD whether they're going to do it, but we'll leave that with them. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about that move. If you think I should have kept the position, I personally think I should have done now watching the replay, but it was really entertaining race. Thank you again for watching, everyone. Bye.